Greetings and thank you for tuning into Mr. Story Channel, where you can experience the most fascinating moments on Reddit. It's time for our first story. Am I the jerk for not giving my roommate a tampon and telling her she can no longer use anything I own? This is such a stupid post, and I'm still so embarrassed and flabbergasted that this even happened to begin with. For context, I, 25 female, live with roommates, all are female. We've all gotten close in the 2 years we've lived together, except for one roommate. We'll call her Emma, 23. It's not that I dislike Emma, but we've never meshed as well as my other roommates have. The other day, Emma called us all out to the living room, where she was folding her laundry. She held up a pair of underwear and asked if they belonged to any of us, and I recognized them as mine, so I said yes. I apologized for the mix-up, and she immediately started yelling at me about how disgusting I am and how she wanted to light herself on fire after touching them. Since I live with all girls, this happens all the time, and none of us ever get weirded out by it. I can't even begin to count how many times someone's bras, socks, underwear, etc. have gotten mixed with my laundry by mistake. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but I realized they were actually an old pair of period underwear that had, and I cannot stress this enough, minor bloodstains on them from years ago when I first got my period. Emma again decided to loudly announce how gross she thought I was and how I should be ashamed for not throwing them out, and she tried to get my other roommates to look and join in on her outburst. Thankfully, I live with some awesome girls, so nobody even batted an eye, despite me being absolutely horrified that someone I live with would do something like that. Everyone was quick to reassure me that it's no big deal and that it happens to all of us. They tried to tell Emma to chill out, but she wasn't having it. She just went to her room and slammed the door. For the next week, Emma didn't speak to me. She would loudly talk to all of our other roommates with no problem, but the minute I tried speaking to her, she would just walk away. A couple days ago, I was lying in bed, and Emma was the only other person home. She knocked on my door, and when I opened it, she sheepishly asked me for a tampon, saying she woke up from a nap and bled through her shorts. How ironic. I laughed and told her no. I didn't have any left, and I knew our other roommates had some somewhere, so it's not like she had nothing. Yesterday, she asked all of us if she could borrow a shirt because her clothes were in the washer. We all said no, and I even said I wouldn't want her to light herself on fire after touching any of my nasty stuff. She rolled her eyes and gave me a half-hearted apology, and I told her I didn't want her touching or borrowing my stuff if that's the way she acts about a natural bodily function that she also goes through. She called me childish and said she didn't see the big deal. Now there's this weird, passive-aggressive vibe every time we're in the same room, and I'm wondering if I should just apologize or not. I talked to some friends, and they said I've got nothing to apologize for, but I'm wondering if I overreacted. So am I the jerk? Edit. Good Lord, since so many people are seemingly so fascinated by my so-called impossible pair of underwear that are over 10 years old, let me say this here instead of saying the same thing 10 times over in the comments like I have been. My mom bought them for me when I was like 14, and they ended up being way too big for me, so I only wore them in times of desperation until recent years. I never thought I'd have to explain my underwear to hundreds of strangers on the internet, but there's a first time for everything, I suppose. Let's see the comments. I will go with not the jerk. Emma is either downplaying her nasty behavior or she's totally oblivious to the fact that she's been acting passive-aggressively toward you for an entire week. I might have forgiven her for that one heated tirade she gave you. After all, your other roommates didn't buy into it, so she simply made herself look petty. It could just be the way she was brought up. Maybe she has sisters who would have acted the same way toward her. I could have forgiven her that. But then, after seeing that no one was outraged over this except her, she still couldn't let it go and spend an entire week pointedly not speaking to you. This I can't so easily overlook. Emma, get a clue. The consensus in the room is that you're overreacting majorly. It's done, Emma. Drop the passive aggression already. No one got hurt. It was a pair of pants, for pit's sake. And the O.P responds. Right. That thought kind of crossed my mind as well. Some of the stuff she's said over the time I've lived with her has made me think she might have grown up in a household where that type of stuff is shameful and needs to be kept to yourself. If that's the case, I could have easily just moved on and let the past be the past. I grew up the same way and still catch myself falling into old habits of being super secretive and feeling shameful about it. So I know how it is. But she wanted to play the passive-aggressive game and didn't entertain any sort of conversation I tried to engage in. So how was I even supposed to tell her it was no big deal and smooth things over if she didn't want to speak to me anymore? you know? Well, do you agree with how Opie handled this situation? Tell me in the comment below. The next story is, am I the jerk for not forgiving my mother-in-law after she gave away my late mother's heirloom to a stranger? I, 30 female, am known in my family for my patience and generosity. I've always gone out of my way to help others, and I take pride in being a good person. My husband, a 32-year-old male, and I have a beautiful relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. My late mother left me a precious heirloom, a vintage necklace that has been in our family for generations. It's not just valuable, but it holds immense sentimental value to me. I've always kept it safe and only wore it on special occasions, cherishing the memories it holds. Enter my mother-in-law, 57 female, who has a history of overstepping boundaries. Despite our differences, when she lost her apartment, my husband and I opened our home to her, asking for nothing in return but basic respect for our belongings. One day, I came home to find my ML hosting a tea party with her friends, and to my horror, one of her friends was wearing my mother's necklace. When I confronted her, my mother-in-law nonchalantly said she gave it away because she thought it was just old jewelry and that her friend admired it. I was heartbroken and felt utterly betrayed. My husband was equally appalled and supported my decision to ask her to leave. Now, the rest of the family is painting me as the villain, saying I'm overreacting and should forgive her because family is family. So, am I the jerk for not being able to forgive this breach of trust? And the community have a lot to say about this. Let's see. Did you get the necklace back? Also, she robbed you, period. The Opie responds, yeah, I got it back after explaining the situation to the mother-in-law's friend, but my mother-in-law thinks I made her look extremely foolish and idiotic. And someone says, and how did mother-in-law's friend know about the necklace? Did your mother-in-law take her on a tour on your bedroom, open your jewelry box, and let her root around in your things? Appalling overstepping and invasion of privacy. She should be shamed by the family, not defended or excused. Opie responds, mother-in-law was wearing it herself. And when her friend admired it, in a grand gesture, she took it right off her neck and handed it over, saying, you have it then, since you like it so much. No, really, I insist. I guarantee you, that's how it happened. Am I the jerk for saying that I don't realize being an introvert also makes you a rude witch? This is a throwaway. I may be the jerk, even if I feel like this is justified. I, 23 female, will keep it short. My new sister-in-law is extremely rude, 25. She will straight up ignore you if you try to talk to her. She is never engaged with the group and is always on her phone. One-word answers are very common. I rolls and so on. This has been brought up multiple times to both of them, and the reason she gives is that she is an introvert. I am also an introvert, which means I get my battery charged by myself and not in group settings. It doesn't mean introverts don't know how to interact with people or be polite. We were at dinner for the youngest's 21st birthday. After the food, everyone was mingling. My mom tried to talk to her and got the cold shoulder. I went up and asked her while she was on her phone if she wanted to take home some cake. I was asking everyone this. She ignored me. I asked again, and she told me she is an introvert and for me to leave her alone. I snapped and told her I didn't realize being an introvert makes you a rude witch. She looked shocked, and my brother called me a jerk for this. We got into an argument, and they left. The family agrees that she is rude, but I probably shouldn't have said that. My sister asked why we even invite her to family events because she always acts like that. And I would like some outside opinion on this. And when you ask for Reddit's opinion, they sure will give it to you. Nope, she's just a straight-up jerk. Being an introvert isn't an excuse to act like this. Honestly, the way to go about this is to feed into it. Don't talk to her. Never ever. Offer her nothing. When someone says, go get everyone, make it everyone but her. Never acknowledge her or speak with her. Give her nothing. Invite her to nothing, and don't remind her or call her over for anything. Ever. When she speaks, don't even acknowledge her. When she complains, throw her attitude back at her. But you're an introvert, so obviously you don't exist and can't be bothered. That's not my problem. Then I roll right back at her and go back to ignoring her. And someone else says, my guess is that she's been guilted into it by her husband. The husband either doesn't want to go alone or, in the past, has gotten a lot of, why isn't your wife here, type questions and comments. And the next story is, am I the jerk for describing my mom's second marriage and her younger kids as her do-over family? I, 17 female, lost my dad when I was 5. My parents were married, but I remember dad being more present in my early memories than mom, and when my dad died, I knew my mom would not be there for me. She left me to raise myself, or she roped me in with some extended family to take care of me, usually my grandparents. But she wouldn't always do that, and I was sort of forced to become independent and more mature in some ways to raise myself. I had to make sure I ate, did homework, and got to school on time, all without my mom helping me. The most she'd do was make some food, but she wouldn't even tell me she had. I usually had to search the fridge to find it. My grandparents were the ones who celebrated my birthdays with me, and they were the ones who typically went to my school for parent conferences. My mom doesn't know me. She couldn't tell you what classes I take in high school, what my favorite food or color is, who my friends and best friends are. Nothing. 5 years ago, she met her husband Sam, and pretty quickly, like before they were living together, my mom got pregnant. So Sam moved in, and my mom married him. My sister was born 4 years ago, and she had her son 2 years after that. And right away, I see the difference in how my mom is with them. She knows them, she loves them, she dedicates time to them, and she advocates for them. All the things I do not remember her ever doing for me. She eats with them and plays with them, and she takes her daughter to preschool every day and takes her for a treat after. It stinks to see. I didn't get a good mom, but I see she had her in it to be a good mom and chose not to be. Sam isn't as good as my dad was, though, but he's still better than my mom ever was to me. Last week, my mom asked me to babysit for her and Sam, and I said no. My mom was shocked and asked me why I wouldn't babysit. I told her I had work and I had plans with friends. She told me she would have expected me to want time with the kids. I told her I didn't want time with her family. She asked me what that meant, and I said Sam and the kids are her do-over family. She is a better mom to her younger kids, and she and Sam have created their own perfect little family with them and their kids. But she was never that for me. I told her I have zero interest in helping her out with the do-over family, and I pointed out that it was the most she had said to me in years because she normally doesn't talk to me or include me in anything. And the only reason she was speaking to me was because she wanted something. She was all like, "How dare you say that about Sam and the kids?" And she told me I had an awful attitude, and she hopes the kids never pick up on how I feel about them and their dad. She told me they deserve better than being described that way, and she told me I had some nerve to be jealous that her kids have a happy family life. I laughed and told her she only cared about them, and that was clear. She called me a nasty little witch. That is very sad to hear, OP. Let's see what the community has to say. You are not a jerk. Your egg donor with a uterus was not there for you. She is now with her second chance family. You owe her nothing. My mom doesn't know me. She couldn't tell you what classes I take in high school, what my favorite food or color is, who my friends and best friends are, or anything. If she brings this up again, ask her these questions and see what her answers are. When she can't answer, she will throw a fit, but you will have made your point with her. Make sure you first ask her, what is your little brother's favorite game? What's your sister's favorite dinner? Etc. Then ask her questions about you. That way, she'll get the point that she knows nothing about you. Another user said, not the jerk. Your mom was not and is not there for you, and it must really hurt to see her be the mom you had wished for. You understandably lashed out at her, and in response, she cussed you out, which is not acceptable. You didn't attack the kids, you absolutely directed your anger at the right recipient. Hold out. It's going to be better, and you'll be able to find your chosen family or be with the family members you want to be with soon. I wish you the best of luck and happiness in your future. For the next story, am I the jerk for failing my duties as maid of honor even after warning the bride I wasn't prepared to take on the responsibility? 2 months ago, I was maid of honor at my friend's, let's call her B, wedding. I was touched to be asked but hesitant to accept because I was not in the right place where I felt I could contribute to the typical maid of honor responsibilities. I was honest about this from day one and made it clear I would step down with no hard feelings if B wanted to ask someone else. She told me that it was okay and that it would be a small, non-traditional wedding anyway. All she wanted was for me to stand next to her on her big day, so I accepted and did exactly that. During the reception, I was having a conversation with the groom's friends and heard all about the extravagant bachelor party they'd thrown for him. The best man's girlfriend asked me what I'd done for the bride, and I had to admit I hadn't organized any celebrations for her. The atmosphere with that group felt awkward after that, and I could tell the girlfriend was judging me. In another conversation, one of B's aunts mentioned how beautiful B's dress was and asked me where we found it. I told her I wasn't the one who took her dress shopping, and the aunt looked surprised and said, "But aren't you the maid of honor?" A couple weeks later, when B and her husband, H, came by to deliver a thank you card for my gift, I felt that H was being a bit standoffish. The next time I saw him, at the grocery store, B wasn't with him. He kind of blew me off when I said hi, and I knew then that something was wrong. So I called B and asked if there was something going on with H. She played dumb at first, but long story short, I got her to admit he was upset with me for not putting more effort into the wedding stuff. It turns out his friends and B's parents agree with him and think I should have been more involved. I asked B what she thought, and she said that while she wasn't mad at me, she could see where they were coming from. When I reminded her how she told me herself all she wanted me to do was stand next to her during the ceremony, she replied along the lines of, "Well, I thought you'd be up to doing more the closer we got to the wedding." I apologized for disappointing her and left the conversation at that. We haven't spoken since, and I'm worried there's now a rift between us. I don't want to make it worse by getting defensive, but I'm feeling kind of resentful. Looking back on the months leading up to the wedding, it felt like B set me up to fail by telling me I wasn't expected to be involved with things. Was I supposed to be a mind reader? I made it clear what I was able to contribute, and I believed B when she told me it was enough. I bounced all this off of my mom and sister today to get their opinions. My sister thinks it was on B to communicate with me if she wanted more from her maid of honor, but my mom thinks I should have declined being maid of honor if I couldn't handle the basic duties. Now I feel like maybe I was a bad maid of honor and friend, but I'm still frustrated that B didn't tell me what she wanted before it was too late. Am I in the wrong here? Let's see some answers. Not the jerk. Opie asked what was required, and stand next to me was the only requirement. If the bride wants to be mad that Opie didn't do more, then Opie has two options. Politely acknowledge Opie's original comment, saying, "I don't think I can do this," and find someone else so Opie can just be a wedding party member or regular guest, or accept that they still want Opie as maid of honor, but they are not going to get the full shenanigans. The Opie literally said, "This is the most I can commit to," and the bride was like, "Sure," and then when you did what you said you could or would do, you're the bad guy. If the bride was expecting you to change your mind and magically become capable of doing the stuff you couldn't do, then that's their problem. And now for our last story. Am I the jerk for calling my husband ungrateful and childish? My 30 female husband, 32 male, and I have been together for 8 years and married for 3. I am pregnant for the first time right now and have started maternity leave from my job. I basically stay at home, taking care of myself, the house, and our dog. I am already up to 31 weeks, so getting around the house is becoming harder and harder. I also have to deal with nausea and migraines, and due to some previous medical issues, this pregnancy has been a tough ride. While I am absolutely delighted to have this baby, the pregnancy has taken a toll on me. My husband has taken up more hours at his job for some extra income and usually returns home late. A few days ago, I was very exhausted after driving myself to the doctor for an appointment and just doing work around the house. So I crashed on the couch for a nap but did not wake up in time to make dinner. My husband came back from work and woke me up. I asked if we could order takeout, and he got angry and started shouting. He said that after a long, tiring day at work, a home-cooked dinner is the bare minimum to expect, and that I let him down. I told him that I have been too exhausted these days, but he just shut me down, saying I stay at home all the time and should be able to manage at least this much. Then I told him that he's being very ungrateful and childish for expecting me to do everything alone. So he called me a jerk. I usually manage everything okay, but he gets angry when things are not what he wants them to be. I have tried to talk to him and split some chores so he can help me sometimes on the weekends, but he refuses every time, saying he needs the weekend to chill. I also cannot seek help from family because both our families are in different states right now. So, am I the jerk?